Hello, Steve Kuntz here. This presentation is on propaganda. 29, section 2 in the textbook deals with propaganda. As we go through this, you're going to be answering questions 1 through 5. It's not just a simple answer. You're going to have to do a little thinking, and I'll talk about it a little bit as we go through it. And then you're going to fill out this Venn diagram at the very end. I'll go through this in class, what I want you to do. But we are going to be talking about propaganda. So what is propaganda? Propaganda is a specific type of message presentation directly aimed at influencing the opinions of people rather than impartially providing information. All right. Propaganda, we see it every single day. If you are on the Facebook, if you're on Twitter, Snapper Chatter, whatever you do, you're going to see propaganda. One of the common ways you see it every day, if you're watching TV, you see advertisements, that type of thing. All that's propaganda. They're trying to influence you to thinking a certain way about a certain thing. I know for a fact that if I go, if I see somebody with, if you look at what type of people that they use to sell things, it's not ugly people. It's not fat people. They're usually good looking. They're in shape, that type of thing. I know if I go buy a pair of jeans, I'm still going to be 5'0" and 200 and way too much. It's not going to change that, unfortunately, if I buy those pair of pants out there. This would have been a piece of propaganda that was used to influence U.S. soldiers during World War II, trying to get them not to just go dilly-dallying with anybody out there, because they could actually pick up a disease. Now, the important thing here is the United States, Germany, Japan, everybody during World War II used propaganda. Everybody still uses propaganda in today's day and age as well. Now, however you choose to define propaganda on your sheet is up to you. All right? Now, number 3. Why did the U.S. use propaganda during World War II and how did they do it? List as many as you can. So, as we go through this, you're going to see different ways we used it. Okay? Masculine strength was a common visual theme in patriotic posters. We used pictures of strong, mighty men that showed America's ability to channel its formidable strength into the war effort. American muscle was presented in a proud display of national confidence. We didn't use weak people. You didn't have guys that looked like Pee Wee Herman. They're muscular. They're good looking. They're tough. This one is obviously trying to get people to join the military, join the Navy. All right? So that's one of the ways how the United States used propaganda to get people to join the military effort. Here's another one. Production wins wars. Keep them fighting. Join the workforce. You know, if you're not out there, actually fighting, you weren't drafted into the military, you didn't join up, sign up yourself, you can still help out at home. Now, women in the war, and you're not done with number 3, by the way, just so you know. There'll be more examples for that. But how did women contribute to the war effort? Well, all the men at the time were overseas, all right? Not all of them, but many men were drafted into the military, so a lot of jobs were opened up, and women filled in at those jobs, okay? Let's see here. So if you take a look In 1940, there were 8 million Americans unemployed. By 1941, unemployment was almost unheard of. We actually had labor shortages in some industries. And I'm going to show you the Rosie the Riveter here in a little bit. But by 1945, by the end of the war, women made up 36% of the nation's total workforce. So women really filled in. They worked at making bombs and bomb factories, things like that. There was a TV show on a few years ago. I can't remember the name of it offhand. But women really contributed hugely to America winning World War II, helping win World War II. Now, unfortunately, at the time, women did not make as much money as their male counterparts, so there was definitely sexism when it came to that. But here's some pictures of some of the propaganda used to get women to join the war effort. All right, victory waits on your fingers. Okay, notice the red, white, and blue, very patriotic. She's a good-looking lady. Again, you don't use ugly people to sell things. All right. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be somebody that is used to sell, that they're going to use for propaganda. Keep them flying, Miss USA. They were trying to get women to be stenographers, typists, that type of thing. This person right here, you notice this in the back. She has a loved one overseas. Her husband's probably fighting overseas. This was given out to the wives of or family members of somebody that had somebody overseas fighting. So this woman, this says, longing won't bring him home sooner. Get a war job. Okay. Now so here's Rosie the Riveter. She's probably the most famous icon when it comes to getting women to join the war effort. Bomb Girls, that's the name of the show, Bomb Girls. But it was a series, it tracked different women that worked in bomb factories during World War II. So if you want to watch a decent show, that's not a bad one. Rosie the Riveter, shown as a strong, competent woman dressed in overalls, bandana. She was introduced as a symbol of patriotic womanhood. We can do it. Notice she's still pretty. You don't sacrifice that femininity to be tough. The Women's Auxiliary Army Corps, the WAAC, was created in May of 1942. So the women were actually involved in the military. They were non-combat positions, clerical and administrative duties. Some worked as topographers, medical specialists, chemists, etc., even aircraft mechanics. The first director of the WAAC was Oveta Culp Hobby. Now, rationing. During the war years, gasoline, rubber, sugar, butter, and meat were rationed. Government publicity reminded people that shortages of these materials occurred because they were going to the troops and the civilians should take part in conservation and salvage campaigns. So rationing was limiting the amount of things that you used to help the war effort. And there were a lot of propaganda used to encourage people to ration. Right here, saving waste fats for explosives, take them to your local butcher, that kind of thing. You would have had a ration card, certain amounts of gas that you could use. People were encouraged to do a number of things, like carpool. When you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. Okay? So in other words, if you're not carpooling, sharing gas, that type of thing, you're in effect helping the enemy. So they're trying to get you to carpool. Right here, waste helps the enemy. Conserve material. And as you can see, basically anything that you could do to save and conserve, you should do. Otherwise, you're helping the enemy. From a paper clip to anything. And as you can see, this obviously looks like a funky-looking Adolf Hitler. I still remember back in teaching this. Oh golly, about 15 years ago, and I had a substitute teacher, a substitute para in my room, and she was a former teacher. She was old at the time. She passed away not too long ago, but she said that she remembered growing up during the Depression at the start of World War II, and she was always amazed, at kids throwing away their pencils, that type of thing, the garbage in the halls, because you were encouraged as a kid, to grow victory gardens, that type of thing at your house, but you saved everything because you were going to help in whatever way you could. The entire nation really did their best to help our soldiers overseas and conserving materials and that type of thing and rationing. Okay. Another thing is that public relations specialists advised the U.S. government that the most effective war posters were the ones that appealed to people's emotions. And let's face it, that does it. All right. The fear of the enemy. Okay. Basically, if you take a look at this, you can see Hitler, and this would have been Hideki Tojo eyeing the United States. There's an outline. They're eyeing North America, Canada, and the United States. They look very evil. Our job is to keep our troops firing, to keep these guys from coming overseas and attacking the United States. Right here you have a young lady, the innocence of raising her child. Keep these hands off, almost these demonic claws with the swastika on it, and the Japanese sun there. And they're trying to get people to buy victory bonds. And a victory bond was loaning money to the American government. So this was another way the United States used propaganda to sell victory bonds. Right here, we're fighting to prevent this. Here you have a Nazi boot with spikes and a spur on it with the swastika on that boot attacking our churches. We're fighting to prevent this. Here they're selling war bonds again. You have this innocent little children, very patriotic, flying the American flag, big brother kind of protecting little brother and little sister, and the shadow of the swastika over them, trying to get people to buy war bonds. There were fear-inspiring posters that depicted Nazi acts of atrocities. Here you have a horrible-looking Nazi throwing skulls. Again, using fear to sell, to influence people's emotions. Right here you have the Nazi, the swastika. This obviously a Nazi soldier, his dagger through the Holy Bible. This is the enemy. They're attacking our beliefs, our God, that type of thing. Right here, stop this two-headed monster. You can see the blood dripping out of the Nazi soldier. Looks horrible, demonic, and the blood dripping off of the Japanese soldier. And they're trying to get people to join the workforce right here. He's attacking the Statue of Liberty, but you have the strong production, the strong wrench too. This is one way that you can keep, you can fight these, the evil Axis. Another thing they did was using propaganda to encourage people to kind of keep their mouths shut. Basically careless talk. If you had a soldier overseas you wrote letters to, you didn't want to compromise national security, by someone talked, and because of that, this soldier's dying. Because there's spies everywhere. The Nazis are everywhere. So, to guard against complacency, the government would use propaganda to remind America what our soldiers were sacrificing. Okay? How tough is it really to um, join a car club and save gas? Uh, this guy's fighting overseas for our freedom. Miles of hell to Tokyo, getting people to um, work where you're needed. Here you have a fallen American soldier. Right here, you talk of sacrifice. Well, big deal if you can, you're sacrificing certain amounts of things, milk and sugar and gas. Well, that's a small sacrifice to pay when in the big scheme of things. You talk of sacrifice. This guy knew the meaning of sacrifice. Dr. Seuss, one of my favorite poets is Dr. Seuss. I'm not a big poetry fan. I consider him a poet, but he was actually a political cartoonist during the war. He wrote for the New York newspaper called PM. And here you can see a couple of propaganda that he used. What have you done today to help save your country from them? Now, at the time, it actually would have probably been considered very racist. In today's day and age, the artwork and cartoons that Dr. Seuss would have used, because he really made the Japanese very racist. The type of how he drew the Japanese people. But everybody, there were cartoons. I used to show a video called "Cartoons Go to War." If you ever want to check it out, it's probably on YouTube. But we're talking Bugs Bunny. They used Bugs Bunny to sell the war effort in the United States. Okay, and I have a book called Dr. Seuss Goes to War. If you ever want to take a look at it, I have it at the school, I think. But it's all of his propaganda cartoons that he wrote during World War II. This was before he became a children's writer. So just a little fun fact for you about Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss. All right, now, one of the things here, I'm not going to have you guys do it. I'm just going to run over this I actually was sent by another teacher years ago. His propaganda PowerPoint on German propaganda. I'm just going to show you some German propaganda just to give you a little bit of an idea on what some of it would look like. So these are pictures of actual propaganda that would have been in Germany at the time. I won't go over this one with you. But this is a good example of German propaganda. This one's called the Eternal Jew. You notice that this particular man, he's hunched over physically, almost looks demonic. You know, those evil Jews. That's the cause of Germany's all of their misfortunes is because of the Jews. Why they ended up putting them in concentration, that kind of thing. Jews were seen as almost not normal in this picture, like the spawn of the devil, killers of Christ. You notice that you have the hammer and sickle, so they're associated with communism as well. Jewish the Jews would have been the big bankers at the time. And you can see they would have been the money lenders, that type of thing, holding a whip. Almost this whole thing almost looks satanic, demonic of some sort. Okay, but these would have been a perfect example of how the Nazis viewed the Jews and how they would get the German people to view them as well. This is an advertisement. A little fun fact for you. The Beetle, the VW Beetle, was designed by Otto Porsche and Hitler. But you notice what a great lifestyle. Their blonde hair, blue eye, the perfect Aryans, the typical Nazi view of a good-looking couple. Look at those teeth. Nazi policies would be associated with wealth and good lifestyle. Um, they're obviously very happy, okay, but this is an advertisement for the Volkswagen. Here you have the seed of peace, not dragon's teeth. Adolf Hitler, the irony of this picture. He's planting seeds of peace. Adolf Hitler. Um, and it's like the angel Gabriel, announcing him sowing the seeds of peace across Europe. Here you have a piece of German propaganda, blonde hair, athletic, strong, good-looking young man. This would have been associated with the Nazi youth movement. And notice the swastika kind of front and center. So if you were a young Nazi, you would have been forced to join the Hitler Youth. The Boy Scouts were declared a Jewish plot. We'll run through these couple of them. But here you have, again, same type of thing. The country work service. These were young men for the labor force for the Nazis. Blonde hair, blue eyes, very strong, very fit. And I'll show you this one, two more here. The Jews, this was actually a newspaper at the time. And you have this particular piece of propaganda. This is a microscope, obviously. This would be the close-up of the slide that the Jews are almost the Jews, the capitalists, the communists. You have these different symbols in here. The money sign, the capitalist, the hammer and sickle is the communist. They're all kind of part of the disease, and it's up to Germany to root these evil people out. Again, a little bit of irony is that the Germans, the Nazis, were a socialist party, which is pretty much communism. But all of this, kind of an interesting slide. But you see the Jew, the Star of David. This would be the germ or the sickness, and then again, the Jews, the capitalists, being the scapegoat for the decline of Germany. All right, now this is the last one I'll show you as far as the Germans go. This is called the Jew, and you can see that they're almost pulling back a curtain, and you have these strong hands fighting this evil man, portrayed as very ugly, again, somewhat demonic, that type of thing. Stereotypical view of the Jew having the large nose, and the fire in the background, and they're pulling the curtain back on him, trying to see that, hey, look at this. Here's another, we have to fight this evilness. Okay. We have propaganda. Again, like I said earlier, we have propaganda today. And the Nazis' propaganda minister was a guy by the name of Joseph Goebbels. We have made the Reich by propaganda. They used it. Again, when we talked about how they took over Austria, how they took over the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia, they lied, said the German-speaking people there were being treated poorly, that type of thing. Just lied about it. And they were good at using propaganda, and Goebbels was definitely a huge part of that. Okay? This quote, this is a picture of Goebbels right here. he ended up killing himself along with Hitler at the end of World War II. But if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. This quote is actually attributed to him. It's attributed to Adolf Hitler as well. But propaganda, people use it to try to influence your views on certain things. And US did it, Germany did it, Japan did it, Italy did it, Britain did it, all of this stuff. If you go over to the Ground Round in Worthington, next time you get a chance, check it out because they actually have a lot of examples of World War II propaganda over there. Different posters and things like that they use for their artwork. So kind of neat. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, have a great rest of the weekend. Fill out the back of the sheet, the Venn diagram, how different examples of what the United States did and different examples of what the Germans did. And in the middle is what both examples of what both of them did for it. So masculine strength, that would be in the middle. Women joining the war effort. I'm not sure. I didn't show you any of the Germans doing it, but you could certainly put that for the United States. The Jews being the scapegoat would be a good example to put on the German side. But fill in as much of that as you can. Again, have a good weekend, and I'm out of here.